What's up, everybody? So today, as a guest, we have Denis Kang. He used to fight with me in the Pride days. He's a legend, an old school MMA fighter, and we're gonna talk to him and hear some stories about back in the day. Right on. Enjoy.
1978とある田舎町で生まれて移り住んだ新宿で育ちこの町で起きたこれまでの俺たちのここまでの生い立ちはほんのまた序の口試されたいちいち正してきた過ち騙し合いやからしないはスニッチの始まり放課後の登山所児童館にホームアローンそんな時間はほったらかして向かったとある場所
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the YAMATODAMASHI podcast. Today, we are joined by a real world-class fighter in Denis Kang. Denis, you've been to Pride, you've done Dream, UFC, Pancrase, Spirit, Super Brawl. Am I missing some? Probably. But you have done the whole MMA landscape. So really excited to talk to you and Enson today around that. But how are you doing today?
Oh, very good, man. Good morning. It's 8 a.m. here in Vancouver, Canada. So a bit of a dark, gloomy morning, Canadian winter, but happy to be here. Haven't seen Enson, haven't seen you in ages, probably since the Pride days in Japan.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Since Pride.
Yeah.
So that was the last time you guys saw each other then? Literally at a Pride show?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, at a Pride show or at the Pride dojo? I can't remember. That little
I think it was a Pride show, I think it was the last time.
Probably.
Yeah. Well, one of you, were you fighting on it, Denis, on that card, or?
Yeah, I was. I believe so. Yeah. Yeah. It would have been the last Pride Bushido event in 2006, like November, October 2006.
Wow.
Yeah.
What, the one with you were in the finals of the middleweight? Cool. Ooh,
yeah.
Wow. Cool. Want to get into that later.
Or it would have been the Dream, if you were a Dream 2012. That's the last time I was in Japan. The New Year's Eve event, Glory and Dream co-promotion, when I fought Melvin.
Oh, I think I did go to that too. Yeah.
No way.
I might have seen you there. Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So it's funny actually because we when we do these podcasts, we've had a lot of Enson's opponents on, which has been a great talk, just kind of hearing about the different battles. But Enson's always brought you up to me as well as someone that you know and someone that you get on with. But it was actually because of the like an Instagram group, right? When Enson got arrested, and you were telling me that you were like, "Oh, I saw Denis Kang put some like really lovely words towards me." But why don't you tell the people sense?
Yeah, well, when you get arrested or you get something bad, you really see the true colors of people, especially, when I got arrested, the rumor was that I was going to be gone for a long time. And, a lot of people get brave on that, thinking that, he won't be around again. He'll probably won't even see this. And had a couple guys there's a couple guys on the chat that was kind of like, he's fucked, and saying stuff like that, and I noticed when Denis came on was pretty much straight up. I'm still supportive, not throwing me under the bus or not giving up on me. And when you're in a when you have people around you that you think are real loyal and friendly, and they're friendly when things are great, and the times you really need them is when things get really bad. And when you have guys that think, he's not going to be around, or I don't want to be associated with him now, he has a bad reputation, you really appreciate the people who are true to you and always have that loyalty no matter what happens. Especially it was like when I first got arrested, so nobody heard my story. All they saw was what came out in the news, and of course the news is going to make it as interesting and as severe as possible. Because the first talk was I'm probably looking at 7 to 9 years, and then I'll probably get deported as soon as I get out. So as you know, I did only 99 days in the jail. I got out on probation. I got a 2-year suspended sentence with a 4-year probation. So I mean, nothing near the 6 to 9 years that it was rumored. Yeah. So thank you. I want to thank you for just being supportive and being a true friend.
Of course, man. I mean, listen, I know what it's like, man, to be in these tough situations. it's easy to kind of lose hope and feel like you're outcasted, man. But you got to rely on like the people around you, you know. And I know the meaning of having people support you in times of stress, how important that is, right? So yeah, man, of course.
Yeah, thank you, man. Appreciate it, man.
I love it. I love it. So, Denis, you mentioned obviously you and Enson know each other from like your travels to Japan, right? For the Pride fights back in the day. What first got you to the Pride events? Like, what was it? Was it? I mean, it was the biggest stage at that time, right? Was it?
Right.
Oh, the biggest. Yeah.
And you were fighting in Spirit before, right? The Korean MMA.
Right. I was fighting in Spirit MC around 2004, and I mean, my dream was to make it to the big show. You know what I mean? Pride or UFC. But at the time, I wanted Pride a little bit more, and I really thought that fighting in Korea would be a bit of a springboard, you know, just to kind of to get to the Pride events in Japan. Myself having a Korean background, I think was pretty important because my father was in Korea, so I had family over there, you know, and my brother's over there now, so it's just kind of launched a whole kind of thing over here, you know.
Is there a big like difference in fan bases between the Korean fan base and the Japanese fan base?
Not really. I mean, at the time, the sport was a little bit behind in Korea. They caught up very quickly, but the sport was definitely in its infancy there. You know, at least like 5 years behind, and then they caught up later on. But at the time, but I was surprised the first time I went over there. You know, people knew MMA. They knew K1 more than MMA because K1 was on like syndicated TV, on just regular TV all the time. Right. And then after that, they started to broadcast MMA more and more. Right. So this is like, we're talking like around 2004, 2005, you know, and then, yeah, they would, I would always say K1 to them. That just kind of meant MMA or overall. Right. But they all loved it. They all, I mean, they come from that same kind of, you know, martial arts warrior culture. Right.
Yeah. It's Taekwondo, right? The big
Taekwondo, Hapkido, yeah, big judo and wrestling, boxing,
yeah. You went to Korea once, right? And so you got into some trouble. I remember reading that.
I used to go to Korea. I used to go to Korea a lot because they have very cheap labor there. So I used to bring leather up to Korea and then hire people to make my racquetball gloves.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I actually went there a couple of times. Yeah, that's my last life, my prior life. It seems like.
Are they lead powdered gloves?
It's like almost like a golf glove, but in racquetball they use gloves to soak up the sweat so that the grip doesn't slip.
Oh,
so before I fought, I was a racquetball player. So
I thought you said wrecking ball. I thought you meant like.
Oh no!
Because I used to be a bouncer. And we used to carry these leather gloves with a pocket of powdered lead in the knuckles. And when you could buy them at I never really got to use them, unfortunately. I mean, probably fortunately, because you probably hurt someone, but yeah. And then when you would make it fist, it would tighten and make your fist super hard. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the funny thing is when I went up there, I met your brother, Julian.
Yeah. Julian, that's right.
And he took me. I think he was with Bonnie, his friend. Yeah. And then they took me, James. They took me to a club.
Oh yeah, my brother's legendary.
Man, his brother is like a freaking he got the girls come all over him. It was like holy shit.
Really,
the girls are like I think he does acting and modeling and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, he just got married. He's got a big YouTube channel over there now. So he started off in acting and modeling over there. Yeah. And now he's kind of settled down. Yeah, he's got a pretty big YouTube following.
Wow. Yeah, but he he had like a celebrity girls coming at him, and
yeah,
it was interesting, man.
That's crazy. What do you think was the biggest difference, Denis, between fighting in Korea and fighting in Japan?
Well, I mean, the level of opponents was at the time. The beginning of the level was just different. Korea, then for some reason they didn't take MMA that early like Japan did. You know, like Japan, you know, they started with like as early as UFC's, really. I mean, with Shuto starting off in the early 90s, Grace in the early 90s, before UFC, really, with catch wrestling and New Japan and you know all that stuff.
Pancreas.
Rings Network, Pancreas, Rings. That was pre-UFC or at the same time as UFC, and the word MMA didn't even exist in Korea at the time. Then I think they probably learned of MMA in the late 90s. I would imagine, early 2000s, and then. But I mean, there was only a small spark needed, and I mean, I don't know if you guys watched UFC last night with Do Ho Choi. UFC is well entrenched in MMA at the moment. Korea is well entrenched in MMA at the moment. So I mean, they've made up for lost time for sure. But at the beginning, it was like a lost town over there, lost town of MMA. Like nobody knew anything. They had very strong judo, very strong wrestling, very strong boxing and Muay Thai, but nobody mixing it together. There just wasn't a following. I think also they probably didn't see too much of a future in it because nobody knew it. So it was hard to convince. Why would a young man like waste his life in MMA, you know, when there's nothing, you know? So, yeah.
Well, at that time, it was so considered like a human cockfighting or too brutal.
Right.
So none of the TV networks or none of the sponsors would even support it. And, you know, it wasn't something that people could see them making a future or feeding their family with. So,
right.
And especially if Korea was like 5 years behind, you know, that would even be worse. Yeah. But what's crazy about that is, you know, I know Korea has unbelievable wrestling. They have good wrestling. And the kids in Korea, man, they're tough. They're like, when you're fighting a Korean, it's like, oh, you better be ready, man, because it's going to be tough. So
like
I can see why now the Koreans are doing so well.
They are. They're all super hard-nosed. Like there's varying levels of technique, you know, but you know one thing, they're all going to be very hard-nosed and hard to put down, right?
Yeah, for sure, man.
Do you visit Korea much now, Dennis?
I was just there a few months ago for my brother's wedding, actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, just in May. Yeah. So like about 6 months ago. But before then, I hadn't been there in a while. Yeah. So yeah, I kind of.
I have a question. Do you get like approached and like fans come up to you because you're his brother, or because you?
They remember
is it more for your
MMA
MMA or for who your brother?
For a little bit of both, I guess, right? More for, remember, I went over there first, and people knew me, you know, first because I started fighting over there, and then he came on later, you know, a little bit through my name, but I mean, you know, people remember me from my fighting days, and now both names are kind of associated with each other, you know.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I couldn't remember. Was the when you fought Akiyama? Was that in Korea or was that in?
That was in either not K1 Roman, K1 Heroes. Yeah. So that was like in between Pride and Dream.
Yeah.
Like that was like end of 2007.
Yeah. I couldn't remember if it was in Korea or not. That fight. It was
in Korea. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Yeah. Because they did. I remember they did quite a few fight. K1 did a few shows there, right?
They did. Yeah. That was a tough one, man. That was a tough one. Damn. Yeah. If I could go back in time, that's the one fight thing I would fix, because you listen, man, I don't make any excuses about any of my losses, but this one, I was poked in the eye. If you watch the fight, you can see me blinking, and I lost the sense of distance. I couldn't tell if he was close or far, and that's what messed me up. I should have asked for some kind of timeout, you know, and given myself a couple seconds to recover, but I didn't. And then, I mean, whatever happened, right? But that is the one loss. I will say that's what happened. That's what contributed to me getting stopped.
It's interesting, right? Because I remember around that time as well, you had the controversy with Masaki, right? Where they were saying that he was like bathing in lotion and stuff like that, and he almost had the rep of being a bit of a cheater. Is that how you?
No. Sorry, yeah, I think close, but Miyazaki didn't have that. Akiyama had that.
No, that's what I mean.
Yeah, Sakuraba accused him of greasing, if you
Yeah.
remember.
Oh,
And
yes,
there were
right, yeah.
some links. There were some links to him having a tricked up gi in his judo days, apparently.
Yeah,
See,
yeah.
was
He actually
accused
had the same thing happen in judo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some people even accused him of having loaded gloves. I don't think that was true. I don't know how you would do that, to be honest, putting brass knuckles in your gloves. I mean, if there is a way to do that, I don't know it, and I'd be really amazed, but I don't think he did that. But I don't know. I didn't feel him. I don't know if he greased up in our fight. I didn't see it because of that, but I was poked in the eye, and I don't think he meant to do it, but that is what happened. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Going back to Pride, I always think, that performance in the middleweight tournament was so gutsy, right? Like, you made it to the finals, but I remember when you fought Misaki, you had like all the tape around your arm. Did you damaged your arm in the previous fight with?
Right, I tore my bicep in the first fight, and I beat it fighting Akihiro Gono. So I tore my right bicep. It's separated now. It's split, and I never had it reattached. It just kind of hangs. Like, I don't know if other fighters have it. Like Matt Serra has a similar quad. I know Roddy Ferguson has a torn glute. Like, this just happens in sports. Some people have torn pecs that they never get reattached. In the first fight, I threw a right hook to the body of Gono, and I thought I sprained my arm. I'm like, oh, I punched a little too hard, maybe slow it down. I went on to win the fight, and as I got backstage, I felt it kind of swell and get a little bit. My shoulder would separate a little bit when it would bounce up and down, because the bicep kind of helps the shoulder be attached to the shoulder joint. And what happened when I got X-rays later on is I detached what's called the long head of the bicep. Yeah. I actually ended up tearing the other one too a couple years later. That one I had to have reattached. So this one I didn't have reattached, and I have a whole, like, a little, yeah. Looks more like my bicep is melted. It's kind of weird, but yeah.
It's something we see rarely these days in MMA, right? Like one night tournaments. You see it. I think Ryzen did one like not that long ago, but
it's hard.
I was gonna ask your opinion, like how you feel about those types of tournaments.
I mean, back then it's just the way it was, right? 2-3 fights in one night. But now that I think about it, it doesn't make that much sense, because people get so injured. And if you think about it, like, now fighters are getting paid more and more for more for what they're worth, for what their body is worth, for putting their health physically and mentally on the line. And for you to fight, let's say your health for one fight and maybe 8 weeks training camp is worth, I don't know, 200 grand, right? Like, I don't know. How can you put a price on that, right? 200-300? Are you gonna get paid, in that 2 or 3 fights compounded in one night? Are you gonna pay somebody 2 or 3 times what he's worth in one night? I mean, people are making that in one fight right now, like Conor McGregor and Jake Paul, Mike Tyson. They're making 200 million. So it's just not worth it for people to fight in tournaments anymore. And there's a lot of people that get injured and that drop out. So a lot of tournaments were like what happened with me that night with the Pride finals. Paulo Filho ended up getting injured, and Mizaki had lost to Paulo Filho and had to come back and fight.
And it happened to Enson as well, right?
Yeah.
UFC 13.
Oh, is that what happened? I didn't know that. Yeah. So, because tournaments are so rough, it happened to me. When I fought in Super Brawl Hawaii, I fought in a tournament. I won 2 fights, and then I had to retire after the second one. I couldn't come back and fight for the finals because I was so messed up from 2 fights, man. Like, people don't realize how hard one fight is. To fight 3, and I did one tournament where I won 3 fights in a row, and I was lucky. I ended all 3 fights fairly fast, but sometimes it's not like that. You never know how a fight's going to be. Right. So,
yeah, I was
the good old days.
Yeah, man. Hard. You got to go backstage, calm down a little bit, but not too much, because you got to fight. You don't know how quick the next fights are going to be. Could be 20 minutes, could be an hour.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you blew your nose, right? And that kind of changed the whole course.
Yeah, when I fought in the UFC lightweight tournament.
Oh, really? Is that when you armbarred Hoist Alger?
No, armbarred Alger, and I think Guy Menser had a real hard fight with Leninger. So I was coming in pretty fresh. Guy Menser had a real hard fight, and I guess I got clipped. It was the last UFC that you could fight bare knuckled, so I opted for bare knuckles, and I guess I got clipped over here somewhere, And I thought, maybe I got blood on my nose, and I blew my nose. And one of the biggest rules in fighting is if you hit in the face for 24 hours, don't blow your nose. And apparently there was a little crack in my face bone right here, the palate, and air just went through, and I blew it, and I felt like my eye was getting pushed out, and I was like, oh, my eye's coming, what the fuck's going on, man? And then the doctor came in, told me got to stop the fight, and I told the doctor, I still can see off this side, let me fight. I knew guy was tired, I was fresh, I no, let me fight. And they said, no, because if the air is coming through here, there's a crack somewhere in the faceplate, and it's a thin bone. And he said if it's cracked in the wrong angle or wrong area, and you get hit in the wrong angle here, it could cave in your face to create reconstructive surgery.
Right.
So the doctor just said I had to pull me out. And back when you're young, you don't think of the future, and you don't think about it. I was pissed, man. I was like, no, I suffered more in training. Let me fight. I can't see it. It was all swollen. I can still see out of this side. Promise me I'm okay. And no, he just insisted that it was stopped. So yeah, that was kind of a bummer. And that made me realize that, you need there's a lot of luck involved when you fight a tournament, on the draw, how much damage you're gonna take.
Yeah.
It's
Which
and not
opponent you have
necessarily the
first.
best fighter wins.
Right. That's right. Exactly. It's the one who has the smartest and luckiest fights, really. Right.
Yeah.
But I will say this: if you're in terms of fan-friendly content, the tournaments, a complete tournament where nobody pulls out, is one of the best shows because it tells a story. Right. It tells the story of from the beginning to the end with a completion. And if you win that tournament, you are that winner. You are the hero of that story. So it's pretty cool. If it happens, it's so hard that you get a full tournament with nobody pulling out,
Yeah, the real winners of tournaments are the fans, right? So
yeah, true. Or losers, how it goes. Yeah.
Enson mentioned bare-knuckle, right? And you had a bare-knuckle fight as well, like in your early career. Yeah.
My first fight was in 1998 in Vancouver, and MMA wasn't even called MMA yet. It was called No Holds Barred, and NHB, or Extreme Fighting, or No Holds Barred, or whatever. And it was in an illegal warehouse. You have to call a pager number the day of to get the address, and it was in a warehouse, unsanctioned, everything. Yeah,
I'm curious to get your guys' takes on bare-knuckle these days. Right now, like there's a massive resurgence in it, especially with Conor being attached to it. Like, what do you guys think of it?
It's amazing. I love it. I mean, it's bare-knuckle, but they're wrapping the back of the hands, because you got to remember, when you fight bare-knuckle, really bare-knuckled with no gloves, no tape, it's the bones in the back of the hands that break, the metacarpals, not the knuckles. The knuckles swell up, sure, but it's usually I've broken my hand 3 times, right? And it's the back of the bones, the metacarpals that break. So they have this part wrapped, and then they have just the knuckles poking out. You know what I mean? So it's almost like they have a support on the back of the hand and just the knuckles peeking out. So they can punch. They almost have a little bit of protection, but it's still bare knuckle. Don't get me wrong. But it's like enhanced bare knuckle, I would say, right?
But you guys enjoy it?
Yeah, I love the bare knuckle because it's almost raw. It's like back in the gladiator days.
It is.
If I was active, I would have definitely fought bare knuckle.
Yeah, me too. I would have given it. I just like that it's just strictly punching too. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Focus on one thing.
Yeah.
It's been a great avenue for some of the guys.
Throwback to the days of old school boxing back in the day in black and white.
Yeah. No, it's definitely picking up steam, right? I think it's only going to get bigger and bigger.
I think so.
What do you guys think about the current MMA scene, where you've got UFC large and in charge on top, and then the place that for number 2 is pretty up in the air a little bit with some of the recent feedback on PFL, and obviously Ryzen's doing pretty well. But I wanted to get your opinion, Dennis, on the current landscape.
Well, so what happened with PFL? They bought Bellator, right? Right, yeah, and then so I don't really know too much about what's happening with them, but I don't know. Like it's right now, it's not really an MMA market; it's a UFC market, right? And UFC is just writing it. They have so much momentum with branding and with just having they created the market, right? And it's going to be very hard for anybody to dethrone them. I mean, they're like basically WWE, and everybody else is just independent pro wrestling promotions. I mean, I think that's a pretty fair example. And I mean, just an example is the shows. Two examples: the shows in Abu Dhabi are massive. When the COVID happened, they were the only sports event to pull something together. The only. Nobody else did anything like that. With having that fight island and everything was segregated with with social distancing and proper testing, just to have the resources and logistics to pull that off is uncanny to me. Nobody else has done that. Not even boxing. I don't think NFL or NBA did that. Maybe they did it later on, but they most likely learned off of the back of what UFC did on Fight Island. So Dana White, like, kudos to him. I mean, I know there's other people behind Dana White also. It's not just him, but whatever. Just the UFC as a whole. Number two is their show at the Las Vegas Sphere was incredible. A lot of people. Yeah, that was. I mean, to just you remember where we came from, Enson. Like, to have these shows happen is unreal. The I don't know, man. I don't know the UFC machine is incredible. I can't, and there's fights almost every weekend now. Like, I don't know. I mean, I want to say something bad, but I can't because we have so much good MMA. And I mean, I know, yeah, they have a bit of a monopoly, but they're not doing a shitty job with it. I'll tell you that. You know, they're giving fans fights. They're giving avenues for fighters to fight and feed their families. Okay, yeah, maybe things could be better. They could be paying people more. Obviously, maybe it will in the future. Maybe there'll be medical insurance, retirement, whatever, pension. But I mean, it's evolving anyways, and at least there is something there, right?
You know what's crazy is when you go to Vegas now, and then on the huge billboards we used to see like Barbara Streisand, or the big names. Now you have like MMA fighters on the. I mean, it's like, holy shit, MMA fighters. I mean, for me, it blows my mind to see MMA get this big, and then another part of me is super happy to see how well the sport's doing.
Right.
Hey, James,
Yeah.
you're back.
Oh, we can't hear you. Lost your voice all of a sudden.
I don't know what's going on, but
Yeah, we hear you now, but you disappeared for a while.
there's like
me and
two of
me
me.
and Dennis were talking shit about you.
Thanks.
But we're just talking about how big MMA has got, and for me, when I go to Vegas and see MMA fighters on the billboard, to think that in our day, there was never on TV. There was no sponsors that wanted to risk being a part of it. If anything, we had to go find the VHS tapes. There was no internet to watch it. And yeah, like he said, the UFC. I mean, I believe that most of the, how people sometimes nowadays they say how Dana White has this monopoly and he's not paying. He's making this much money and paying the fighters this little. I don't know the logistics of the revenue and that, but all I know is the appreciation I have to Dana White is because when the Ferretti brothers were losing money on the UFC and they wanted to just shut it down, Dana White stood up and told them and begged them, say, "Come on, give me a couple more years, man. Give me a couple more years." And that's when they did the TUF, and that's when everything took off.
That's
So, if Dana White's making too much money, I think he deserves it, man, because that guy was the one who made MMA as big as it is today. I mean, if Dana White wasn't around, Lord knows what the MMA would be doing. Could probably be still trying to fight this human cockfighting theory, and I feel like Dana White deserves to take a lot of money, and I think he is the reason why MMA is so huge.
Hey, Enson.
Yeah.
Do you remember that old event where you cornered your brother Egan, Lumax, Jacob?
Yes, I do.
Bro, my brothers and I watched the VHS over and over when we were young. Huge, man. That was such a cool event, right? Like the gi top. just short. It was basically Sambo and MMA mixed together almost.
Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah.
Your brother was in the finals with TK, remember? Like, oh my
Yeah.
God. And you know, like I learned, like nowadays I you know, I'm retired from fighting. I coach a lot. I learned a lot from watching you coach in that fight. Like your coaching was very clear when you were coaching your brother Egan. You know what I mean? Yeah, it was really cool.
I remember distinctly at the end, he was like done. His
Yeah, it was
stamina
a
was
long
gone.
fight.
He didn't want to get up. And I think I actually grabbed him and dragged him to the corner and said, "You're not done. You got to keep going."
Boy, oh man, I couldn't tell. That's amazing. Yeah, he had some hard fights. Gono was in that tournament.
Gono,
Kazunaki,
Murakami,
PK, yeah. Remember there was
PK.
that fight between Nishi and the flying armbar, Matsuyama. No, Satoru Sayama. No.
Oh, Sayama, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Nishi.
Nishi and Sayama did like an exhibition.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Wow, that was cool. That was so way back, man.
It's like 94 or something.
Yeah, that was way back.
Yeah, that was an unreal event. And then after that, they had the next one. Kikuta won it. Remember?
Yep, Kikuta won one. Yeah,
Kikuta. Yeah, that we're going way back now.
Yeah, I know. Everyone's like, "Who's that?"
Yeah, I know. But those events were awesome, man. The Lumax Cup,
man.
The jacket jiu-jitsu or oh man, it was so cool. No, so if you don't know what we're talking about, James, it was an old event back in the day in the 90s in Japan, and it was basically, I think it was put on, but it was linked to rings, I think, right? And it was basically you wear a gi jacket, shorts, and you fight on like a platform, and it's you wear MMA gloves, and it's kickboxing standing up. You're allowed wrestling and judo throws, and on the ground it's just punches to the body and submissions, and you have unlimited. Actually, they have Ganryujima now in Japan. Right? Yeah.
That's a whole nother whole interesting situation. That one
that you went through.
Yeah. So there's a fighter, a couple guys from Vancouver fighting in that. One of my fighters, Radley De Silva, he's a 145er champion in Vancouver, probably going to be in UFC soon. His family, he comes from a Brazilian capoeira family, and some of his cousins are fighting in Ganryujima. Marcus Aurelio, Lalo, yeah. So you'll see him in that. It's amazing.
Yeah, I've seen that with the moat.
Actually, you know, Ganryujima is actually run by the the K1 promoter Tanigawa.
Oh, really? Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Tanigawa's running it now. Yeah.
Tanikawa? Yeah. No, Tanikawa was also with Pride, I believe, right?
Yeah, for a little bit. It's kind of yeah.
Well, he was with Pride Bushido. I'm pretty sure when I was there, Tanikawa was there. Yeah.
And then I think he was a part of Heroes too, yeah.
Right. Yeah, I know him. I know I met him somewhere for sure. Because I fought for Pride, I fought for Heroes, I fought for K1, and I fought for Dream. Right. So yeah, for sure I met him over there. I know Tanikawa. Yeah.
The funny thing, tell you a story about Tanigawa is once he kind of screwed me over when I was working with Kid, and he kind of screwed me over. So I actually did kidnap him once.
Oh, really?
And and just pretty much told him that straight up that I know you're fucking with me. And he ended up, being a very apologetic, and he put one of my fighters in the K1 Max World Tournament, and he gave me 30 grand cash to say sorry, and I actually forgave him. And we're on good terms today, so
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
For you, man.
Just on that theme, I'm curious, Dennis, what your experience was like with some of the Pride management, and so maybe some of the people in Dream as well, just because you often hear that foreign fighters sometimes might not have the best experience. That's what we've heard from some guys like Rampage and others as well.
You're right. Yeah. Well, I mean, my first few fights in Pride was with a manager by the name of Mr. Muroka, and I'm pretty sure he was he had a missing finger, so I mean he had some kind of specific background, right? And there was a little bit of I'm not gonna say anything specific, but there was a little bit of things that were unclear with my contract in the beginning, and he was a character, man. He was a nice guy, and he was very sharp, very street savvy, this guy. But you had to watch him. He was a nice guy, but you had to anyways, he was interesting. He was almost like a movie character at the time. I don't know if he's still alive. I mean, he was old back then even, you know. And
he's not. I've never heard of him being around anymore.
Really, yeah. And his wife was old too, and she was like she smoked like this long thin cigarette. She was like, the two of them made quite the pair. And he was like an old, he reminds me almost of like Penguin, like a short, stocky Japanese dude, dressed pretty good, you know, like the gold watch, the Gucci sweater, missing pinky finger, and always talking very slick and suave and boisterous, with his wife on the side, just as a little side piece, smoking her cigarette, right? It was just funny, yeah. Yeah, and that's it. Yeah, so he got me my first few Pride fights, because if you remember at the time in Pride, you had to go through a booking agent, right? So he was my booking agent through Pride, and then I ended up going through Motoko later, who also passed away, I heard. Yeah, R.I.P. to Motoko. But yeah, no, and then yeah, it was pretty funny at the time. Sometimes I really felt like I was in a movie, just hanging around with him, because he took me out for dinner a couple times, and I think he was also managing Choi Mube, if you remember Choi Mube.
Yeah. It's funny because that's another, like, you know how Rampage talked about the differences in how he was treated, how I was treated.
Yeah.
You know, even like just what Dennis said in just that short sentence was, I never needed to go through management. I dealt with them directly.
Wow.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is, you know those yellow cards. Rampage was telling me how they took his percentage of his money. I thought those yellow cards was just a show, because I got a couple yellow cards and they never took a dime out of my money.
Really?
Yeah, so it's like, it's kind of weird how the way they treated a lot of the foreigners, and the way they treated the guys who were in Japan were really different, man.
Yeah. I gotta say, I got treated very well from Pride.
That's
Very well.
good.
Yeah.
You're one of the lucky ones.
Yeah, they like me. I remember once going to get paid at the Pride office. You know, they would always pay you in the hotel lobby, the foreigners anyways, in cash. It was pretty funny. But that morning they took me to the Pride office, and I think it was whoever it was, Sakakibara at the time, or whoever it was, we're sitting at a table, and then he goes in the back with the account, or the secretary or whoever comes back. I guess there was a safe in the back or something, comes out, what big stacks of American cash, brand new sequential bills. So that means stacks of $10,000. All bills are in order, like in serial number order. No stick to the bills, so you can't count them. But these accountants, they have a way. I'm sure you've seen it, Enson. The way they count the money, they wedge them between their fingers and they just start to flip them.
Yeah, they flip them
like that. It's incredible.
Yeah.
They paid me this money, I brought it back to Canada or the US, wherever I was at the time. I brought it to the bank. They couldn't count it. They had to put it in the money machine. It was too slippery. You know the way people count money here, like with their thumb? They couldn't do that. I couldn't do it. I tried. It was too slippery. They were brand new bills. It was unreal. Mountains of money in front of me on the table. Because there was other fighter. There was Murilo Bustamante with me, who was also collecting the pay fighters. I remember. So they brought out a lot of cash and just split it up amongst the table. It was pretty cool. I had my coach Marcus Suarez with me at the time, and we were like, "Wow, this is a moment."
My money was always brought to me into my locker room after my fight.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Didn't have to wait. I mean, at least we only had to wait till the next day, but a couple times I had to wait a couple of months. When I was with K1, they owed me. I think they owed me $100,000 for like. And they're like, okay, we'll wire you the money next week. And then it ended up being next week. Took them like a month and a half, I think. I think they said, okay, here's $10,000 in advance. We'll send you the other 90 and however long. And then it just kept taking. And I think eventually, like about 6-7 weeks later, they ended up paying me.
But you actually got your money from K1.
Yeah, I did. I
But
was
you know, a
scared.
lot of fighters, race seafood, a lot of the guys never
Really?
got some of their money from K1.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. So you're one of the lucky ones.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I fought in K1 Korea, when I fought Kao Klai, I I mean, it was K1 that was basically being like the K1 name was being lent to a Korean agency. So I wasn't called from actually K1. I was called from a Korean like brand manager, and he said, "Okay, you're getting paid 10 grand, but you're only gonna get 8." I'm like, "Where's the other 2?" He's like, "No, you got to pay me." I'm like, "What? No." And he's like, "No, that's the only way." I had to do it. I had no choice. You know?
Holy shit.
Yeah. 20% he took. Shit, man. And he was probably already getting paid from the company, you know?
Yeah, double dipping, double dipping.
Yeah.
There's a rumor, Dennis, I always wanted to ask you about, which was you were apparently going to be on the first season of The Ultimate Fighter.
I was, yeah. We were flown in, myself, Bill Mahood, Jason McDonald, and Jason Thacker were flown in to audition for it. And this would be 2004, I believe. Yeah. And yeah, we were there. We were sequestered in our room. We had to sign non-disclosure agreements. We weren't allowed to leave the rooms. And we were allowed to leave the rooms only for like auditions and for trials because they didn't really know what to expect. So we had to go and meet the producers and show our skills. There was myself, Diego Sanchez, Josh Koscheck, Sam Hoger, everybody that was on Tough One pretty much, and some other people. Yeah. And I ended up turning it down, to be honest, because I had to fight in this tournament in Korea a couple months, and about a month and a half or 2 months later, and they wouldn't let me do that. And I really had to do that. So if I had participated in that first Tough, I probably would not have ended up in Pride, you know? So yeah, I sometimes I wonder what would have happened.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, it was a pretty tough decision because I waited until the last minutes of the auditions to tell them no. And they brought me to the UFC office and they're like, "Are you sure you want to do this, Dennis?" I said, "Yeah, I do." They said, "Have you told Dana this?" "What is Dana?" "Get Dana in here." Dana walks in and they're all louvering over me, telling me I'm throwing my career away and I should not be doing this. And it was a hard decision, but I stuck to it. You know, I really wanted to compete in that Korean tournament. And I did, and I won it. And I ended up going to Pride and doing very well. So, I mean, and I ended up going to the UFC later on anyways. So
yeah,
everything worked out in the end.
It's crazy to think in another universe is Chris Lieben trying to piss on your bed or something.
Oh, man. Man, if that would have happened to me, I mean, I love Chris Lieben. I know him now; he's a good guy. But I would not have. I would not have let that happen. He wouldn't have pissed on my bed. I tell you that.
Well, you know, you made the right decision because your Pride was the place to be, man.
It was.
UFC fight. All the UFC fighters wanted to come to Pride.
You're right.
So we're the lucky ones that got to be a part of Pride.
Right. I agree. And there'll never be anything else like it.
Never, ever, man. No way.
Speaking of Pride, how hard was that tournament in 2006? I know you had a personal loss, right, with your fiance as well. If you wouldn't mind sharing your experience in that tournament.
Oh, it was really hard. I mean, so the tournament was in early November, I believe, and just in September, my fiance committed suicide. So it was very tragic and hard time for me. You know, I had to pull myself together, continue the training. I'd never gone through something like that at the time, right?
Wow.
And then just a couple of weeks after she died, my uncle died of cancer. So yeah, it was a hard time. It was a hard time. But I mean, I grew from it. I learned from it, and I had to pull together. You know, at the time I was in South Florida at American Top Team, and I got to say that the people at American Top Team really rallied through together and supported me. My family also, my friends, Bill Mahood, my coach, Marcus Suarez. But my team really helped me push through it, and my family. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
That was
tough,
man.
Yeah. Yeah. Just a couple weeks before, you know. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Did you see today in the UFC that like because you mentioned it, it kind of reminded me of it. Anthony Smith, he fought and he geez, I forget what it was, 50 something, 51 fights that he fought. His cornerman who cornered him for 50 of the fights just passed away, man.
Oh, I didn't know that. No.
Yeah, and then
Wow.
DC then were kind of saying that he's not over it yet. He's like really crushed about it yet. So DC felt like he shouldn't fight. And I felt like, depending on the fighter, it could be fuel. And shit, he just really didn't perform well. I mean, he looked really bad. And I was watching him fight, and I felt like, well, DC was right, man. I think he wasn't ready, emotionally ready to fight. So yeah, that was a hard one to watch, man.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're right, man. I missed that fight. I didn't know that happened, man. My heart goes out to him. That's a hard thing to go through,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you got to think of the other side too. He probably almost needed that outlet and needed to train and something to focus on, right? And continue to fight for his coach, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I wonder if he decided to because he probably thought, what would the coach want him to do?
Right, exactly. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Also, that's probably what his coach would have wanted him to do, is keep fighting for me, right?
Yeah,
that's
yeah. Oh,
yeah,
I felt bad for him though.
yeah. I'm getting goosebumps right now, just from what you told me. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
man.
unreal.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Just on that note of coaching, how's the transition been for both of you guys, moving from active fighter to coaches?
I'm loving it. I get to do what I love every day, which is MMA. And my buddy, I can't really train that hard anymore, but I still get to live, a little bit through my fighters and push them, and just be involved in the gym every day. That's all I want. I tried retiring from fighting and working a regular job, and I was just miserable. I did not like it. I need to be I need to be in the gym. This is what I do. This is what I love. I mean, this is what I am. That's it, man. That's what I want to, yeah. So.
Yeah, I'm in the same situation. One, I think when I fought, I trained as hard as I could. I fought as hard as I could. So I have no feelings of wanting to make a comeback or wanting to get back in the ring. When I see the fights, I never have this, oh, I wish I could do that again. I feel like I had my fill. And now, I unlike Dennis, I wasn't really, I guess maybe I was really burnt out from the fighting, that I was
No.
happy just pulling away from the whole sport and just not having to train people. But because I met my wife and she was training, I started training her because she, out of the blue, said she wants to try MMA. And just how just things go, man. We're getting like a huge fight team going now, and I'm enjoying fighting, training them. And then like today, we had two fighters fight. One won as far as results. The other won because he never gave up and his heart never broke. He lost as a result, but he won, and it makes me so proud to see them. And for me, I don't know if you Dennis feel getting the same situation, but I feel like my MMA career has given me all the opportunities I have today, and
Absolutely.
the recognition, the I get to do this and that because they know who I was from fighting. I mean, I owe my whole life to fighting. Everything I am, everything I am able to do now is because of fighting. And that's why when I get offered seminars throughout the world, I never give, like a lot of guys will say my minimum is $5,000 or 10 grand. For me, it's anybody who loves MMA, I'm willing to give back. And if they pay my way, give me my food, getting me a room, it's pretty much no flat fee for me. I love to give back, and if I'm not going to lose money on going there, I do seminars. That's why I used to do a lot of seminars. But yeah, fighting's made me who I am, and I'm super happy. Life after fighting is great.
I agree. No, I'm in the same place, man. It's funny you say that, and said just a few days ago, I'm just sitting there driving on my way to the gym to sparring, and I'm like, man, I can't believe I get to do this every day still. Like, I love this. I never feel bad. Like, of course, I get tired because I am in the gym a lot, but I never hate it because I just love training, you know. And
That's
like I
awesome.
said, I made it to the highest levels of the sport like you did, Enson. So I don't like, yeah, I push my fighters, but I don't need, you know, like you see some coaches out there, I mean, I don't want to badmouth coaches, but some of them who maybe didn't fight as much, they haven't made it to that event, so they need to get their students there. So sometimes things don't work out that well because they push their fighters too hard. You know, I'll push my fighters, but only if they want to. You know, yeah.
What kind of injuries are you? Any repercussions from the fight career that you had?
Yeah, well, I had my body's pretty banged up. I mean, I had like 8 surgeries. I had a hip replacement in 2017. My hip was really bad, but it's good now. Thank God I had the hip replacement. I had a bicep reattached. I had hand surgeries. Yeah, I can't really roll anymore. I just lift weights and hit the bag. That's it. That's what keeps me healthy. Yeah.
Oh, good to hear because I'm in the same boat. I don't really roll
Yeah.
anymore. If I ever
No.
do any type of sparring, it's position sparring only.
Right. That's it.
And
If I
unlike you, I
roll,
never. What's
yeah,
that?
if I roll, something will tear or sprain, and I won't be able to teach the next day. You know, it's
Or
like
you think you did good and you get swollen knees for the next 2 weeks.
exactly. It takes you a
Yeah,
week to recover, right?
yeah. For me, unlike you, I didn't do any surgeries, but my whole body's like I got frozen shoulder. I can't lift my hands above there.
Oh
My
yeah,
neck, my neck only goes this far.
yeah.
My neck's bad, my knees bad. But you know what? Life is great.
Right, man. I wouldn't change it for the world, man.
No way,
People
yeah.
ask me, would you do anything different? No, I'd probably train harder, maybe smarter, but there's no way I would not do MMA again.
You know what's crazy that I noticed is really different, and I don't know. I want to ask you if you feel the same way. Back in the day when I was younger, everything was fighting, everything, and I remember going in there. I was willing to die in the ring, and I
Right,
remember going in there thinking, man, if I can die in the ring today, it'd be an awesome day. And I actually met Hoist the other day, and I've got that belief and that style because of Hoist. Because when I started training Gracie Jiu Jitsu, I was in Hawaii, and Hoist used to come down a lot. I used to work with me a lot, and the Gracie family was about death before dishonor,
right,
and that's how I got it. I told Hoist, man, yeah, I told him that. I said, that I started fighting like that because of you, and he told me, and I totally agree. He goes, yeah, weren't we pretty stupid back then? Can you imagine that? Wanting to die in the ring. And when I sat back and thought about it, I said, holy shit, yeah. I'm so glad I didn't die in the ring. I thought that was
yeah,
going to be a great day. But I mean, for you, Dennis, I mean, I know probably in your day too, like you're the same day as me. So you're willing to give everything. The guys in our day who got into the ring wasn't about fame, wasn't about money. It was about pushing ourselves, testing ourselves, and what better way to test yourself is to be able to fight and be willing to die. So, I
that's
mean,
right.
how do you feel about that? I mean, right now, I think, holy shit, it was a little distorted because I really love fighting that much, and I'm thinking now today that I'm so glad I never got my wish to die in the ring, and I'm so glad I'm alive today.
Yeah, I mean that's a crazy mindset we had. I mean, I used to, when I had fights coming up, I used to not want to make plans for the few weeks after because I
Yeah.
wanted to make feel like it was the end of my life almost. That
Yeah,
fight
it
like
would feel
almost the
weird when
ultimate
people ask you the week after the fight, I have a party coming, can you come? And it'll be feel weird saying, oh yeah, I can be there thinking, oh fuck, if I make it to the fight.
yeah, because you don't
That's
you don't know
right.
if you're gonna be around for that next week. Yeah,
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 that's the same
yeah.
thing. All right. That's
It's crazy.
crazy,
But
crazy fighters back in the day.
yeah, yeah. And it's the same thing. Now that I'm older, I'm starting to enjoy life a little bit. And I do reflect on that sometimes and like, yeah, it amazes me the mentality that I used to have. And it's really the mentality that it took at the time because there was still like nowadays the sport is well known and well developed. Back then there was so much unknown and mystery in the sport.
Yeah,
It hadn't
yeah,
been around for that long, you know?
yeah. That's
Yeah.
true.
You had to be somebody a little off, a little extreme to take part in that sport, to like it. Just to like
Yeah.
it. Not to take part in it, to like it.
You had
And
to
then
have a
take
little bit
part
of
was a
crazy,
whole other
man.
level. Yeah.
Do you guys think that's missing from today's fighters? Or do you think
What's
maybe
that?
it's too comfortable for them now?
Sorry?
Do you think it's too comfortable for fighters now?
No, I think it's actually even harder for them now. There's so much more. The level is even higher now. But I mean, it's all relative. The level is higher, but you can train better and smarter. Like, you know, back then, nobody really knew how to train when we were training. You had to order videotapes, you know. Nowadays, fighters right away, they benefit from like a ready-made blueprint of how to train from A to Z, you know. So, and if anything, it's easier. But making it easier has made it harder because more and more people can do it properly, if that makes any sense, right?
Yeah,
Oh, it makes a lot of sense. Back in the day when we fought, you're fighting a jiu-jitsu guy that wasn't that good on standing, or you had a striker that wasn't that good on the ground. But nowadays, you got black belt jiu-jitsu guys have pro boxing careers. You got
Yeah,
world champion kickboxers have a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. I
that's
mean,
right.
the kids nowadays growing up to MMA, they got their work cut out for them. But of
They do.
course, they're making a lot of money. They can make a living nowadays, and they're going to get famous. So like our day was like, you know, you're fighting for peanuts. No sponsors willing to put their name on the line because of on this barbarian sport.
Yeah,
You know, it's such a whole different day and age now, and I'm just, you know, as much as I'm hypocritical and just sad that how the you know the martial arts has gone and has went to sport into entertainment now, where they shit talk, they don't have that much honor now. I mean, as much as I'm disappointed in that, I am so stoked that MMA is mainstream now.
that's right. I mean, that's what we wanted all along, you know, for the sport to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything you guys would like to see more of now?
More of what? Sorry.
Just in MMA, like, is there? I don't know. Would you want to see things go back to maybe 10-minute rounds or no time limits? Is there anything you think that maybe from
I
back
would
in the day
I would
could have
like
gone back?
to see most of the associates go back to the pride rules.
The
I mean,
rounds.
you know, now you have this 3 points on the ground, you can't knee to the head. You know, no strikes or knees to the head when the opponent's laying on his back. I mean, real martial arts is you defend yourself. You defend yourself from all positions. And in
Yeah.
Pride, if you're on the ground and the opponent had you in side control, he could knee your head. If you're laying down, the fighter standing, he could stomp on your face. You know, and people would think it looks brutal, but that's pretty much all it is. It looks brutal because as professionals, we would train not to get stomped in the face. We wouldn't stay in the turtle position too long if the guy's in a north-south position able to knee us. If he's in side control, we're not going to let him get the position to drop a knee on our face, you know? So
Yeah.
I feel like with those rules, it creates a lot of bad habits for fighters that makes mixed martial arts not a martial art, but more of a sport now.
Yeah, you're right. It makes it more where you just train for those rules and not really for a fight, right?
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
no like an actual fight that's just kind of free flowing, more organic, you know. So yeah, I don't think it'll ever be perfect, right? You're right. I don't think it'll ever be perfect, but you know, I wish the rounds were a little bit longer, like back in the day, you know, like a
Yeah.
10 from Pride. I think that was
10-minute
cool.
round.
5, yeah, you know.
Dennis, what was your favorite fight? Like, what was your favorite memory of being in the fight industry?
I would have to say definitely some of my Pride fights. Either my fight with the Russian Enson Inoue, who's passed now, RIP, or you know, the Pride tournaments was good. The fight with Gono, the fight with Mizaki was a war. My fight, my second fight in Pride against another Russian, Andrei Semenov, who was super tough. That was unreal. Yeah, my fight with
You got a
Paulo
bunch
Filho.
of them. You can't
Yeah.
pick one, huh?
No, there's so many, man. I've had a lot of hard fights.
I always thought your performance with Ninja, that was always
Yeah, that's definitely one of my favorites. That's up there. That was a quick one for sure. I trained hard for that one. And Ninja was very highly, highly ranked at the time, right? So
Yeah, Ninja was the man.
Yeah, I mean, Ninja was tough. Yeah,
it was more like, who's Shogun?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he beat Mario Sperry. I think he beat Arona. Yeah, he was tough. He was tough at the time, and he was coming from light heavyweight. I mean, he was a big dude.
Yeah. Ninja, man, what's he up to now, man?
I think he's just in Brazil, just doing his thing. Same with his brother. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I don't want to make this go too late because it's nearly 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, and thank you guys for doing this.
Wow.
Jeez.
No, it's been awesome. One of my favorite podcasts we've done.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, this was fun for me. It's just I find it amazing that we're all over the world here. You're in England, you're in Japan, Enson. Like, that's insane.
Technology is amazing, huh?
Yeah, incredible. Yeah. Can you imagine if we had social media back when we were fighting? Like, wow, man.
The sponsors we could have got, and how you can just look up ways to pass guard, and it teaches you all these different ways to pass guard. Isn't that unreal, man, nowadays?
Like, as soon as you fight for UFC, they broadcast your social media handle. So as soon as you fight, you're like insta famous, right away.
Yeah, instant thousands of followers added to you.
Yeah, that's it.
I feel like 2005 Enson might have been cancelled though.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Nowadays, people are citing for, people are getting sick of cancel culture. Right.
Indeed. Cool. Do you want to wrap this one up, Enson?
Yeah. Well, hey, Dennis, thanks for coming, and I'm looking forward to one day hooking up again. If you come to Japan, or if we're in Seoul at the same time, or if I ever go to Vancouver, I mean, we got to hook up and go to dinner, shoot the shit, have a good talk, man.
Absolutely, man. I really hope I get to come to Japan again one day. And if not in Korea, or if you ever come to Vancouver, look me up. And same thing.
Yeah.
If you're ever in Vancouver, it'd be awesome.
Well, thanks to the magic of social media, we're in touch.
Yeah, that's it. We'll keep in touch.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll talk again soon.
That was pretty awesome. Thank you, Dennis, for coming. It was actually pretty nice reminiscing the old days. But yeah, everybody, you guys love this. You guys want, hear more. You guys have any questions about the podcast today? You want certain guests on the podcast? Put in the comments. Let me know. And also, don't forget to like and subscribe and share. We're on, everybody.